Well, good morning, good morning. Michael and Israel here for yet another Tech Tuesday. How are you doing today?
We're here.
Sneaking a few Girl Scout cookies. It's definitely you mark a season by Girl Scout cookies.
Yes, they may be all gone by lunchtime.
Well, that's all right. Well, guys, as always, if you've got comments, then definitely drop them in. We definitely would prefer to answer your questions. I do have a few that I pulled off the interwebs. That maybe help somebody out, but we'd certainly rather help you out today if you've got a question. So, and if you don't mind, you can hit that share button or tag a friend that you know's got a project boat or something like that, and get them over here, and we'll do the best we can, or I should say, he'll do the best he can to help you out. Um, Anything?
Give it a shot anyway.
Yeah, anything big from service department? I don't know whether to say that it's starting to warm up or not because we seem to be
I
going
wouldn't.
through that.
Yeah, I wouldn't jinx it at this point.
I hear that. I think
I was debating on whether to wear long johns because it said it was going to be 67 today. Because the other day it said it was going to be 67, and it never got above like 50, and I froze to death. So
yeah, well, this is God bless Alabama.
Or as my father-in-law likes to say, he's from Wisconsin and staying with us right now. So, oh, it's warm outside. Eh? I'm like, no, it's 50 degrees. That's not warm.
All right. Well,
Apparently it is in Wisconsin.
Guys, if you do have a question,
Say hey so we know you can hear us.
Yeah, say hey. That would definitely be good. Otherwise, we're going to end up talking, and all you're going to see is lips moving, and that's not very valuable to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if Facebook's auto captioning would pick up just mouth reading. I think it has to have the actual audio going through it. You know how it does the automatic.
I'm not on Facebook, so I couldn't.
Oh well, they've got this.
Anything new there?
The computer's listening, and it'll take and throw all the words up and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
For
hey,
closed captioning.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
You're our hero for the day.
All right. So if nobody's got questions, again, if you are watching, oh sweet. All right, we delayed long enough. Oh, now we're gonna okay. I will say if you're watching on a shared post, and stick with me. This is for folks that aren't on Facebook, which I guess you probably would be watching us on YouTube then, in which case it's no big deal. But if I have shared the post from Bucks Island into one of the groups, the pontoon groups, it's the Yamaha group, you've got to go actually click into our post and put it in the comments on our post so that it shows up in our system. Otherwise, I'll see them afterwards, and I'll try to use them next week or get you an answer. But that's just the technical side. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's see what we got going on. All right, let's start with your first one. 2021 250 show, just over 100 hours. ZXR 21, last few times on initial start up, the motor seems starved for fuel and running rough for a few seconds. Never had to prime a bolt before. The rest of that, if I prime it with the key on it, starts fine. Although I can't get the bulb very hard, no matter how long I pump.
Okay. I think probably the issue you're having is with your fuel cap. What I would maybe consider is whatever day you're fishing, to prepare for the next time, I would crack that gas lid before you leave the river. Let it. These are all EPA tanks now, kind of like cars, except they're plastic.
Right.
Okay. And where a car, they hold a car has a metal tank and it holds its shape and its form. So when the valves get pressure on them, they just open up and pull air in. and,
Okay.
and vice versa. When they pressurize, they hold their shape well and they vent through a valve. Okay, in a boat that's got a plastic tank, it lets it suck it in a little bit before it lets that check valve. So that check valve, even though it's set for probably 3 pounds or something like that, whether it's vacuum or pressure, that tank will actually deform before it opens that valve. So
Hmm.
in the older the valve gets, the O rings, because it's been subjected to ethanol gas usually,
Okay.
the little O rings that actually hold the seal swell up, so it actually can take even more vacuum to open them up, even with the tank sucking in
Okay.
and pressurizing that tank. It can take even more pressure over the life of that thing to pop that valve open. And what it can cause several problems actually. And one of the problems is I've heard people that like to idle or have to go through idle zones, motor going dead. And a lot of times they can just crack that gas cap and it'll suck some air in and the problem will go away. Well,
Hmm.
in your case, it could be the same thing. It could be after you've made a long run back, it's got pulled a vacuum in there and it's not letting fuel flow through that,
Because the
through
air
the
is not.
filter and all that stuff real easily. And then when you go home, either the temperature can change one way or the other and can actually cause the fuel to back.
Gotcha.
And the primer bulb, Skeeter mounts that primer bulb flat like this. And when it's flat like this, uh, it doesn't hold the gas from going backwards. So if if your gas tank is sucked in like this and it's got a vacuum on it,
Okay.
it can literally slowly pull that fuel out of the fuel system of the motor and the water separator back into the tank.
Okay. Uh,
So cracking the fuel cap can help with that
along those same
periodically.
along those same lines, I know that the a lot of the Skeeters coming with that warning of overfilling the tank
Yeah,
and getting. Could that be part of the if
it,
you'd
it
overfilled
could.
getting?
It's less likely on a Skeeter than it is on some boats, but if you're trying to inch a little bit more gas in there, don't do that. That's definitely it can fill up your it can fill up the vent with fuel, and it would keep it from venting as easily. So
So hopefully that helps, Greg. I mean that's a simple thing to try. And
But
so
and while you're fishing, you can periodically just crack that cap, and that'll tell you if that's the problem. So if it stops happening when you're doing that, then you may have to get that vent serviced and just get it. They can replace it under warranty.
yeah, and that's the good news about a
But
2021
yeah,
is
but it'll probably happen again. It's kind of the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, with EPA stuff, they kind of make life hard on us. Just kind of like the corn lobbyists like to give us ethanol fuel.
should I try and rotate the primer
You
bulb?
could, if you take the primer bulb loose from that mounting spot in the back, it may improve some stuff and let it lay down. It sure makes it a lot easier to pump the bulb up. That's probably why your bulb's not getting hard real easy, because in order for those check valves to work correctly, that primer bulb, the arrow needs to be pointing up, and with it mounted, you can't get that.
All right. I think we have a plant here
Yeah,
from inside. What is Israel's favorite work knife?
there it is right there.
It's not gonna like your face.
Spyderco
All right.
with micarta handles.
I know y'all were excited. We just picked up
Spyderco.
Spyderco
I'm
in the
the I'm
loft.
the I'm their biggest purchaser. I don't have
Uh,
a knife addiction. I'm addicted to knives.
all right. Good afternoon, Bassmaster Classic. Yeah, on Lake Hartwell. Actually, Dano, if you guys know of Dano, he just headed that way to work out with a lot of his guys. Are there any pros in the Classic that are fishing from boats that were procured through Bucks Island Marine? Procured through in our relationship, yeah, we've got guys that are fishing the Classic. Wes Logan's over there, Matt Heron, Scott Canterbury. Um, they're all fishing the Classic in their Skeeter boats, and just to make sure we're clear on that relationship, they have contracts with Skeeter and they have contracts with us because we're a Skeeter dealer and we've had relationships with most of those guys for years. So we help them out with their boats, and they represent us well. All of those guys do.
Was Clay Dyer fishing there?
I don't know that he's fishing in the Classic or not. And if Dano were here, he'd tell you exactly. I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody. I know certainly if you're heading over to the Classic, all the guys should be there. Brian Latimer, I'm sure will be hanging around. It seems like the whole fishing industry kind of converges on the shows.
I'm so busy
like
fishing, I can't keep up with it.
Oh, really?
No,
Really?
no.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same way. And we've also got, I know Joe McElroy, who's one of our new kayak team guys from Hobie. He's fishing. He actually came in second on the first Bassmaster tournament that was here at the Classic that was held here. So he's over there fishing that as well.
What about our lithium pro guy? Or not lithium, what's it? Impulse.
I'm trying. And again, that's where I lean on Dano.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep track. I
I should
promise.
know his name.
I hope I don't hurt any of those guys' feelings.
Jeremy?
But yeah. But yeah, the Classic, of course, that's going to be broadcast. Get on Bassmasters, watch some of that, throw it on the TV while you're working, or throw it on the computer. Should be fun. Wes Logan's first Classic since he qualified, winning here on Neely last year. So it should be an interesting tournament. I've seen a couple of photos of some pretty sizable fish coming out of Hartwell. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, enough fishing talk. Let's do some maintenance questions here. Tilt trim motor is bogging down. When I trim my motor down only. Normal amps read 14.4 on the gauge, go down to 13 when trimming down. The battery is less than a year old. Thoughts? This would be on a Yamaha. Of course, he didn't give you the specific motor.
Well, I can tell you this, that it should be less boggy while trimming down. And if it's bogging while trimming down and not up, that means there's a physical restriction in not the trim motor itself, but the trim pump. And I've seen this before. Usually I see the trim ram caps come unscrewed a little bit.
Okay.
And if they get unscrewed more than probably, I don't know, a 1/16 to a quarter of an inch, then they're going to, there's a little white wafer looking like a wiper in there, and then the O-ring. If they get up too high, they'll actually make contact with the threads. And it'll start peeling the material off, and when it does that, these little bitty chunks of material will go into the shuttle valve of the trim, and usually it blocks one side and not the other, so it'll trim up just fine. And when you go to trim it down, even on the sitting out of the water, it'll just sound like it's struggling. It's about to blow up, get so much pressure on it. But there's relief valves in there that keep them from, while you're trimming, literally blowing out the side of the trim unit, and it can do that. I've actually seen them on the Verados actually blow the side of the trim shaft out of the motor. There's so much power in those trim motors. So if you ever have that and it's really struggling in one direction, then it's the safest thing to do is stop and take it to your shop, because it can do some damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and a lot of times you have to replace the trim, because when you get debris in that trim, it's really hard to find it and find all of it. There's all these little passages and check valves and stuff that can get stuck in, and some of that stuff you can't access. And I've had to replace a few trims, pulling my hair out trying to find where the stuff, because I knew what it was, I just couldn't find the debris. So you have to end up replacing the whole trim, unfortunately.
All right. Here's a trick question, or so to speak, based on the question. So it's an 01 115 4-stroke Yamaha. Changing the gear lube in my lower unit, and lube started coming out of this port. I asked the local shop wherever he is, I don't know, and they said they had no idea how it could get there. I pulled the lower unit and don't see anything obvious. No lube in the water pump housing. It's definitely gear lube and not oil. Any thoughts? Are you in the same boat as the shop he went to?
Well, that's a weep hole for for the cooling system. And so the only thing I can think of is if you over, like, depending on the pump you're pumping that up with, you can over pressurize that system, and especially on a Yamaha, because the way they set their seals up, they face them in the same direction. So on a Mercury, you have a lip of a seal sticking out towards the water and one sticking in towards the oil. Okay.
Okay.
And what that does is keeps the water out and oil in. Yamaha is going to face the lips of the seal both facing out, because they'd much rather you lose a little bit of oil than get any water in. Okay.
That makes sense.
So when you're filling up these, if you pressurize that lower unit too much with oil, it'll start coming out places it's not supposed to. And especially if you put the drain seal in, the drain plug in the top, and then think you can top it off a little bit more, it's definitely going to come out. So more than likely, this person has put too much oil in the lower unit, and it's pushed out the top seals. And then what surrounds that top seal and the bearings is water ports.
Okay.
And so if that stuff leaks out, it's going to come out those weak holes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's more likely what it is.
All right. Well. And the last one I've got is a good question for somebody looking at used motors.
It's got a lot of stuff going on there, doesn't it?
Yeah. So compression tests on Yamaha 250, a 2006, good, bad, or ugly. Should I pass on this boat, or do you have any other thoughts based on looking at those compression numbers on two different motors?
I would say I always like to see higher numbers. Okay, and
Okay.
a lot of it has to do with the hours on the engine, and sometimes compression numbers will lie to you
Okay.
on these engines, on four strokes, because they do not breathe real well. Number one, when you're doing compression checks,
Okay.
because you, like on the four stroke, I like to have the throttle valve all the way open, and then do a compression check. Well, on these engines, it's all electronic throttle, so you can't really get the throttle valve all the way up unless you stick something in there manually, and you risk damaging it. So we still do compression checks on them. If I see a number like that, I'm going to be skeptical, which means I'm going to go a little bit further and put a camera in the hole and look at the walls
Okay.
and see if they're damaged. And then I'll usually go one step further and do a leak down test. A leak down test is going to tell you what you want to know. And if it's got more than, probably 15 pounds difference of leak down,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes they go by percentage, 10%. If you got a lot of leak down on one cylinder and the rest of them are really nice, then I'm going to pass on it.
Okay.
To me, that's blown up. So.
All right. Well, so not a default off of just looking at the compression numbers.
Yeah, it doesn't always tell you the truth. Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper, but if it's a quick thing, it's like, well, I need to know right now. Then I would, if it was that case, I would pass on it.
And I would also, if you're talking about the whole boat, maybe there's some other visual indicators just by looking at the rest of the boat.
And if that motor, if it had 150 pounds on it and it had 800 hours on it and it's never had a power head before, I'm backing off real quick.
Or maybe negotiating so that you can be able to put a new power head on.
Yeah, which is going, if you've got, almost 14 grand worth of negotiating power, then that may work out for you.
Yeah.
But that's what a new one costs. So.
Yeah. Well,
with labor, basically. So.
You never know the circumstance. If
That's
the guy's
right.
trying to get rid of the boat and he needs to cash out or whatever, then just make sure you make a knowledgeable choice on what it's truly worth.
Educated, yes, sometimes.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks once again for joining us. Thanks for a couple questions there, and yeah, go watch the classic if you're into the fishing stuff. And we're gonna hope for a good, consistent, warm weather,
Yeah.
and start seeing more and more folks out on the water enjoying it. So we're definitely getting busier and busier by the day around here. And we appreciate all of you guys and the chance to be able to serve you and do business with you and keep you out having fun, build memories on the water. So I think that's all I've got for this week. We will.
Fish Fest coming up soon.
Yeah. For the anglers out there, Fish Fest will be March 12th is the actual day. So that's next Friday, or next Saturday rather, all day. That's going to have seminars and food and giveaways and discount tackle and all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to have some boats in the water on the 11th, weather permitting. I know I'm looking at the kayak stuff. We've got some kayak guys coming in. With the rain coming in, we could end up just the way Neely is. Water conditions may be kind of iffy, but we're going to do the best we can. But the plan is to have. I know Matt Heron's going to be here with his Skeeter, and we're going to have another Skeeter FXR to take a ride in, a couple Bass Cats, and the Falcon F205. And I'm sure if between now and then you got something else, if we've got something available and can figure out how to get you on the water on it, then that's a great day for us to do that. So, but the big day is March 12th, completely free if you don't spend any money on tackle. I think we're probably doing the whole if you buy some tackle, you get some more, some more cards thrown in the giveaways. That's always been fun the last couple of years. So. And we'll be doing some lives next week, trying to get that stuff lined up, and we'll let everybody know if you're into the fishing stuff. So, thanks guys again for joining us. We will catch you next time
On the flip flop.
See you.